over 8 months. That's how long it's been since I actually filmed a Triple S video, and that is far, far too long that I care to admit. While I don't know how often I'm gonna film Triple S, I will say I'm not gonna leave the gap that big again. And if memory serves, we were gonna work on like the Copper area train station, but I'll be honest, I didn't actually really build a train station for that. Or okay, I did, but I didn't like it, which is probably why it's been so long since I've been on Triple S. But instead of that, I am gonna work on the jungly, bamboo-y area right here. Gonna get to work down here, build up a whole bunch of like jungly homes, jungly shops, and jungly infested other things, and really finally continue to make the use of all this bamboo I got all that time ago. But before that, what we need to do is grind out a little bit of jungle wood, because I think the best complement to bamboo is pandas, but I think the best block complement is jungle wood. And after grinding out a bunch of jungle wood for a decent length of time, this should be able to cover me for a while. First things first, before we make our little overgrown civilization, we should probably finally make like some way of getting ourselves into the train station. Well, that was a long time coming. So while being away all this time, I've been debating as to whether or not I should have like all these structures I want to build over here, like maybe on the ground, or something similar to what we're seeing at this train station, where they're being like pretty much held up above the ground. But then I thought, you know, why don't I do both? Some on the floor, some hanging above the floor, maybe some tree houses even. As well as, of course, just a bunch of foliage around the place too. And while doing some research on places with a whole bunch of foliage, I've noticed that there was a lot of repetition in the building. So I'm thinking maybe it'd be okay if I could like get away with repeating building a few of these buildings over and over and over again. Not to the point of it becoming boring of just seeing like the same building over and over again, but I could probably get away with it at least a little bit every now and then. Like this one, you'll probably see this one a couple more times. But I think before we get too far into actually building things up, we should probably just like map out where we want like this town to actually go. So around here and around, okay, the problem is we have desert. We have a lot of desert around the place, but fortunately, we have just enough plains off in this direction, as well as some snow over here. You know, I'd understand if there's snow here in chunks, but this isn't a chunk. There's like a single chunk here, and then just snow here, and then just normal terrain over here. I don't get Triple S sometimes, but that's why I love it. Anyways, we can keep pathing around the place. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah, that should cover us for a decent length of time. And I do have a couple other cookie cutter buildings that I actually have planned for this area, which for this one, just imagine that structure, but bigger. And as we all know, bigger is indeed better. Just, don't bother looking inside any of these buildings yet, because there is really not much to see right now. I am planning on doing the interior work probably after I build up everything I want to build up inside this one video right now, but interior work, man. If there's something I hate more than parkour, it's probably interior, so I'm probably going to hold that off at least until I build up the majority of the buildings I want to build up right now. But while we are on the topic of that, we built up 2 grounded buildings right now, but let's try a tilted one, a one on these things, kind of like this thing. One that's at least a good number of blocks off the ground. Let's see if we can actually do one that doesn't look too far out of place. This first one probably will, but you never know. It's possible that it'll fit in like every other building so far. Yo, actually, I'm gonna pat myself on the back on this one and say this actually works really well. Honestly, if it wasn't the only one on stilts right now, it'd probably be hard to just notice something like that. You know, actually, just to make sure it's not a fluke, I'm gonna try it again. Yep, okay, it definitely wasn't a fluke. But before we continue adding more and more houses, we should probably break it up a bit by adding, like, I don't know, some other just, like, random structures around the place. Kind of like this little canopy right here. I don't know why I built it, but I just figured it'd be nice having it. Also, I didn't realize until now, but we are going to have another, like, track of train station going off into another district, whatever that might be, and whenever that might be. So before I get too ahead of myself, we should probably mark some of these out. Okay, and with that done, I can now really get to work and actually grind out a whole bunch of these buildings over and over again. And I did mention I was going to do a lot of repeating when it comes to like building a lot of these buildings up. And that's what I did for an extended period of time, mainly just around like the paths we already built up, just so we could actually fill up most of the area around like the vicinity of the train station we have around here. And now, as we can see from up here, there is a lot to be seen. There's an absolute ton to be seen. And if we actually just take a step back for a little bit, then we can see there's a lot. Like a serious lot more. I think, obviously, there is way more room to be expanded upon, but at least as of right now, This is a really, really comfortable size. Originally, I was going to make it feel more like, I guess, jungly and I guess overgrown, but the more I look at it, the more it feels like sort of like what traditional old style, I guess, Japanese towns would probably look like all those years ago. So I think we could lean into that, but I still kind of want to have a bit of like overgrown elements of this. So maybe we could still add like trees, we could still add some bamboo around the place. We could still just make this place feel like it's being lived in as opposed to a place that feels kind of, not empty, just, what's the word for it? I almost want to say fake, because, like, again, it looks like there's no one that lives here, but I want to change that. I really want to change that. And alright, there's obviously going to be a balance of this. Balance of not too much foliage, but also not too little. Like, we want this mildly overgrown, but not enough to make it feel like it's been abandoned. Oh yeah, this is definitely a perfect amount of foliage. Something we should probably do, though, is, like, something with the paths, maybe, like, add in other blocks, but otherwise, this is looking really good. All this overgrown stuff obviously isn't going to be the only thing we're going to need here, but I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. And something else I'm liking is the fact that we are adding like small little plant pots around the place, or little flower area things. I can't remember like if there's any particular names for that or not. But if we find any flowers we come across when we actually bone meal around here, then we could obviously put them in there. Yeah, I think this is an adequate amount of nature and wild around this town. But now onto these paths, and I was thinking, we have a lot of jungle, we have a lot of bamboo, but we only have a very small amount of tuff. And there's one place I'm thinking where we could maybe squeeze in a little bit more tuff around the place. Have I said enough times how much I love the way this area looks yet? I don't think I've done that enough yet, but something that we still need to do is make this place feel alive. It feels alive, like with all the natural stuff inside of it, but it doesn't feel like it's being lived in. Because it doesn't feel like there's any, like, human touch to this entire town or anything like that. But we could change that. We could change that. I don't exactly know what we could do to change that, but I have a couple small ideas. Maybe. Ow. Who put this building here? Just need a little bit of this, maybe a little bit of dyes around the place, and a bunch of other stuff we could actually use. Now, when I say I want to make it feel like people live here, I don't mean like just placing a whole bunch of just random stuff all over the place, but I do mean just making it feel like there's that human touch to all these places. Maybe something like this, or is this something that's too much like just placing a bunch of stuff in one place? Can't say for certain, but I'm gonna keep giving it a go and seeing what we end up with. Yo, actually, I don't know if this is what I was wanting to aim for, but I feel like it might be. It might be, because now this little street right here actually feels like it's being lived in. Yes, it's very messy. Maybe this wasn't like entirely what I was hoping for, but I think in the end, it is actually working out. It is actually fully working out. And all we gotta do is just keep it going. All we gotta do is just keep it going across the entirety of this town. And after just a little bit more of that later, man, this place feels just so comfortable to be in. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like the variety of different types of blocks, and maybe like the overgrownness, and maybe just like the community feeling of something like this, but something about it is just so welcoming, in my opinion. Something else that's pretty welcoming is all these little market stands I have around here. I guess this is becoming a minor theme with these small towns I'm building around the place, but yeah, I built up a small little market stand with things you might expect to see, like, scattered all across, like, a jungle biome, maybe, including things you might want to actually use inside a jungle biome, including, like, say, boats. And wandering traders are easily a very welcoming thing inside of Triple S, because if I wasn't able to get a wandering trader, I never would have been able to get Pale Oak without having to travel hundreds upon hundreds of blocks, probably not being able to find it, having to go home and just accept that I never find Pale Oak. So, you know, wandering traders, they're not terrible. I can't say they're great 90% of the time, but that 10% when they actually come in handy, man, you got to give them a pat on the back in certain cases. And I think the main thing I got to do now, at least with all the buildings I have now, is something I've been dreading. Interior work. Oh dear. I've done a little bit of interior. I have attempted some minor amounts of interior, but now we gotta just roll up our sleeves and do it. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Okay, maybe I'll have a good time with it. We'll see. We'll see. hopefully, positive attitude, everything will be fun, everything will be great, and everything will be grand. Okay, unless I missed the building, I think I finished with the interior work, and I'll be honest, it wasn't as bad as I thought. I'll be frank with you, it wasn't as bad as I thought. But it was also not as bad as I thought with returning to Triple S. It has been way too long since I've done anything like this, and I am so proud that we actually managed to do this. And I'll be doing this a little bit more frequently than 8 months in between episodes, but yeah, let me know what you think of this down below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.